Meghan Markle has been dropped by her agent. And not just any agent, Ari Emanuel, the most powerful agent in Hollywood, the man the TV series Entourage was based on. There have been rumors about this for months, and Meghan's team in Montecito has been pushing back, insisting that the relationship is still intact. But the evidence tells a very different story.
Dumped again by her agent this time, who just so happens to be the most powerful agent in all of Hollywood. The dude that the TV series Entourage was based on, Ari Emanuel. And there have been rumors about this for months.
Alison Boshoff at the Daily Mail has done a forensic deep dive into exactly how far the Sussex star has fallen, and what she found is revealing on multiple levels. Let's start with the Easter video, because this is what kicked off the latest round of discussion. Meghan posted a video of Archie and Lilibet over Easter, and the reaction it generated was not what her team would have hoped for.
And Harry, making only $50,000 for his paid speeches. Now, trust me, for me or for you, we would be like, we are in the money. But if you're Prince Harry, and you're paying for private jets, and you're paying for security, that's not enough to keep you afloat. So this was the weird video on Easter Sunday that prompted all of this latest discussion.
Rather than warmth and relatability, what many people felt watching it was something closer to sadness. Two solitary children in what looks and feels like an isolated environment. No other children, no sense of a normal family life, just a very staged, very controlled piece of content that raised more questions than it answered about what life actually looks like for those two kids in Montecito. But Boshoff used the video as a jumping off point to examine the broader picture. And what she found is that Meghan is now pivoting again. This is, by some counts, approximately the 100th pivot since the Sussexes left the royal family. The new direction, according to a California source Boshoff spoke to, is motherhood. Meghan is apparently settling on her identity as a mother as the next phase of the brand. The source told Boshoff that this is going to be her focus, leaning into what she calls her greatest and most relatable role.
3 weeks ago, that Meghan is settling on her next direction, and that the new pivot, gosh, what are we at now? About 100, will be leaning into what she calls her greatest and most relatable role as a mother. Now, again, I don't know about you. I think there's absolutely nothing relatable about Meghan as a mum. I think she's completely disconnected from her two children, who are looked after by a phalanx of nannies every day.
Now, the word relatable is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, because Meghan Markle, living in a multi-million-dollar Montecito estate with a fleet of nannies, a full security detail, a household staff, and a lifestyle that the vast majority of the planet cannot begin to imagine, that person is not relatable as a mother. She is not doing the school run the way most mothers do the school run. She is not packing lunchboxes under time pressure while also trying to hold down a job and pay a mortgage. The gap between Meghan's actual life and the life of the average working mother she is trying to connect with is enormous. And audiences are smart enough to feel that gap, even when they cannot always articulate it precisely. But here is the thing. Boshoff notes that there is real money in the motherhood and lifestyle influencer space. Enormous money. And if Meghan can position herself credibly in that space, even to a fraction of the audience that follows major mommy influencers, the financial returns could be significant. This is not an irrational, strategic choice. The problem is the execution, and the problem is the authenticity, or rather, the lack of it. Because building a mommy brand requires something that Meghan has consistently struggled to deliver: genuine, unguarded access. Real mommy influencers share the messy parts. They share the hard days, the mistakes, the moments when everything goes wrong. They build trust with their audience by being genuinely vulnerable, not by performing vulnerability in a highly controlled and carefully lit video. And Meghan, by every account, from people who have worked with her and observed her closely, is constitutionally incapable of that kind of unguarded openness. Everything is managed, everything is controlled, everything goes through a filter of image management before it reaches the public. And audiences, over time, learn to feel that filter, even when they cannot see it.
Is it successful? The exit of Netflix, an initial partner in the brand, suggests not. People who have been in their circle suggest Meghan lacks focus.
There is also the small matter of Harry's very public, very loud campaign against parents posting their children on social media. He has made this a signature issue, using the parents of teenagers who have died after exposure to harmful online content as part of his advocacy. He has argued forcefully and repeatedly that parents who post their children on social media are being irresponsible, even dangerous. And now his wife is apparently planning to build a brand that depends on doing exactly that. The contradiction is so glaring that it barely needs pointing out. But it is worth noting because it tells you something about where the real priorities lie. The advocacy is the performance. The money is the reality. Now let's talk about the Australia trip, because this is the other major strand of the story, and it is equally revealing. Meghan is heading to Australia for a speaking engagement, a fireside chat at a women's retreat called Her Best Life. These kinds of events are highly lucrative for high-profile speakers. The influencer economy in the motherhood and lifestyle space is genuinely vast, and a booking like this can generate serious money. But it also requires Meghan to present herself as a relatable, authentic voice on motherhood and lifestyle, which, as we have already established, is a significant stretch. Harry, meanwhile, is heading to Melbourne for an appearance at the Entourage Summit, a for-profit symposium on psychological safety in the workplace. And the circumstances around this booking are worth examining closely. Harry is not the first choice for this event. He is filling in for another speaker who had to withdraw after being caught up in a Me Too scandal. He is the backup. He is the substitute. The man who was once second in line to the British throne, who commanded global attention wherever he went, is now the replacement speaker at a corporate wellness conference in Melbourne. The ticket prices for the event are significant, nearly 2,000 Australian dollars for a standard ticket, nearly 2,500 for platinum. And yet, despite those prices, and despite tickets being on sale for nearly a month, the event has still not sold out. They have had to introduce a new, cheaper tier of tickets to try to shift the remaining seats. That is embarrassing for any speaker. For Harry, whose public appearances are supposed to carry a premium precisely because of who he is, it is more than embarrassing. It is a data point about the declining market value of the Sussex name. Harry is expected to receive around $50,000 for the appearance. For most people, that would be life-changing money. For someone maintaining the Sussex lifestyle, the private jets, the security detail, the Montecito estate, the staff, the travel, $50,000 is a drop in the bucket. It barely touches the monthly overhead. And as Boshoff pointedly observes, Harry has gone from being the spare to Prince William to being the spare to Meghan. The person who was once the understudy to one of the most important men in the world is now the understudy to his own wife.
Working mother during school runs, filling lunchboxes and cooking mama meals for the children who adore her. To be effective here, she'll need to invade the privacy of her family, but as her recent videos of Lilibet show, this is something she seems willing to do.
Friends of Harry have apparently been saying this privately for years. They cannot believe that he has gone from being the backup to a future king to being the backup act for Meghan's brand. It is a remarkable trajectory for someone who 15 years ago was one of the most genuinely popular members of the royal family, beloved for his military service, for his work with Invictus, for the sense that despite his privileged background, he had a genuine warmth and accessibility that connected with ordinary people. Let's talk about the team that is going to Australia with them, because the picture it paints is one of an operation that has shrunk dramatically from what it once was. James Holt, one of the most senior members of the Archewell team, will not be on this trip.
At the same time, Her Best Life podcast posted, "The hotel just kindly released a handful of additional rooms, including solo options we heard you asking."
Liam McGuire, an ex-serviceman, is handling PR support. The PR chief, Meredith Maines, quit in November of last year following what has been described as the Kris Jenner birthday party debacle. Maines apparently advised against asking photographers to remove images from social media after the party, which was held the night before Remembrance Sunday, a timing that generated significant criticism. And when that advice was ignored, she decided to move on. That detail is significant because it confirms what many people had suspected, that Harry and Meghan lied about what happened with the Kardashian party situation. If the PR chief's advice was to not try to suppress the images, and that advice was overruled, then the subsequent public position that everything was fine and there was no attempted image management was simply not true. Maines clearly felt strongly enough about the dishonesty to resign over it, and her departure left the team in a weaker position at precisely the moment when professional, experienced PR guidance was most needed. The Archewell Charity Foundation, meanwhile, has been hollowed out to the point where it now appears to have just one freelancer on its books, one person. The organization that was announced with enormous fanfare as a vehicle for transforming the world through compassionate leadership and global advocacy now has essentially no staff. Whatever good intentions may have existed at the founding of Archewell, the reality today is an organization that exists largely on paper. Now let's talk about what happened with Patrick J. Adams, because this episode tells you a lot about how Meghan operates when she feels her image is under threat.
PR chief Meredith Maines quit in November last year after the Kris Jenner birthday party debacle. My understanding is that her advice not to ask for pictures to be taken off social media after the party, which was held the night before Remembrance Sunday, wasn't heeded, so she decided to move on.
Adams, who played Mike Ross opposite Meghan's Rachel Zane in Suits for 7 years, appeared on a podcast where he was asked about his relationship with Meghan. And what emerged from that conversation, read between the lines, was a picture of a friendship that has faded significantly. Adams struggled to remember specific moments, specific gifts, specific communications. He gave answers that were clearly designed to be supportive and diplomatic, but the effort behind those answers was visible. He was working hard to say the right things because he felt he had to, not because the warmth was still there naturally. And the detail that really landed was the jam. The host of the podcast mentioned getting a jam from Meghan as part of her As Ever brand gifting. Adams initially seemed uncertain whether he had received one, before eventually allowing that he probably had. It was a small thing, but it was telling because if you are genuinely close to someone and they have just launched a major lifestyle brand and sent you their signature product as a gift, you remember it. You do not have to search your memory. The awkwardness around the whole conversation spoke volumes about where the friendship actually stands. Meghan, who claims she never reads coverage about herself, apparently saw the clip that circulated on social media almost immediately, because within a very short time, she was leaving comments on Adams's Instagram and posting that the jams were on their way for him and his wife and their 3 children. The damage control was swift and visible, and the speed of it made the claim about not following media coverage even less credible than it already was. This is a pattern that repeats throughout the Sussex story. A moment of genuine, unscripted reality breaks through the carefully managed surface, in this case, Adams's obvious struggle to perform a closeness that no longer really exists, and then comes the rapid, calculated response designed to reshape the narrative. The jam comments, the Instagram message, the public display of warmth toward the new babies, all of it landing within hours of the podcast clip going viral. Not because Meghan happened to be thinking about Patrick Adams that day, because she saw the coverage and moved quickly to contain it. And the whole episode reinforces something that Boshoff's piece makes explicit. Meghan has lost WME. She has lost Ari Emanuel. She is now operating without the most powerful representation in Hollywood, and she is trying very hard to make sure that fact does not become the story. The spin from her team, the pushback to journalists who have been asking about it.
In my life?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
sure I got a handwritten note. Impeccable handwriting. Because I got one. That was my way to share that with you.
For a thank you, did you interview her?
No,
What did you get?
but
Did you get a jam?
I got a jam.
Did you?
I got a jam.
You got a jam.
I know. I'm
I did
on
not
the
get a jam.
very. You didn't get a
No,
jam.
I didn't get a jam.
The insistence that all is well, all of it is designed to manage the perception of her position in Hollywood, while the reality of that position quietly tells a very different story. Because what does it mean to lose WME? It means that the most powerful people in the entertainment industry, the ones who control access to the biggest projects, the biggest studios, the biggest opportunities, those people have decided that Meghan Markle is not worth their time and resources, that the Sussex brand, with all its complications and controversies and declining commercial performance, is not an asset they want to spend political capital on. When Ari Emanuel walks away from you, the whole of Hollywood takes notice. And the conversations that follow are not the conversations you want people to be having about you. So here is where things stand. Meghan is without her major agent. Her Netflix shows have underperformed. Her Spotify deal collapsed. The Archwell Foundation has been reduced to essentially nothing. The lifestyle brand is struggling to find an identity. The PR chief has quit. Senior staff have departed. And the new plan is to pivot to motherhood, to build a brand around being a relatable mom, despite the fact that her husband has spent years publicly arguing that putting your children on social media is dangerous and irresponsible.
But what
Yes.
I found so interesting is that Eileen Gu posted a picture of herself with Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry, whereas there's absolutely no image of Meghan Markle. So my suggestion, Angela, is that she wasn't even there. And of course, when she posted that video of Archie going down the slopes, wants everyone to believe that she was.
Harry, meanwhile, is heading to Melbourne as a replacement speaker at a corporate wellness event that has not sold out. He is earning $50,000 for the appearance. He is traveling without some of the senior staff who would normally be expected on a trip of this significance. And the friends who have known him longest cannot quite believe what they are watching: a man who had everything, who gave up everything, and who finds himself in a position that none of them would have predicted even 5 years ago.
And it's red, and it actually has been combed or brushed this time, which is the first time I've actually seen it done. So maybe Meghan's actually read some of us and thinks, well, I better do something. But the sadness for me is this enormous rabbit she's holding. It's a need, isn't it? It's a desperate need she needs.
The question that sits underneath all of this is the same question it has always been: what is the plan? Not the next pivot, not the next announcement, not the next carefully staged video of the children, but the actual plan, the sustainable model, the thing that generates enough income to support the lifestyle, that builds genuine credibility rather than just performing it, that gives Harry and Meghan a reason to be interesting to the world beyond the ongoing drama of their departure from the royal family. Because that departure story has a shelf life.
That the jam's en route for you. She also sent her love and hugs to the couple's 3 beautiful babies' daughters, Aurora, Elliot, and Imogen, who was born in January, and Patrick's mother.
It has already outlasted what most observers would have predicted, but it cannot run forever.
Gold medal winning athlete, and who just so happens to be on the celebrity dating app Raya, looking for love. And I repeat, there is absolutely no evidence that Meghan Markle was on this holiday, despite the fact she did post this video of Archie going down the slopes and looking like a great skier. Well, I don't think that was filmed by her.
At some point, the audience stops caring about the grievance and starts asking what you built instead. And the answer to that question right now is not a reassuring one. There is still time to change the trajectory. There are still assets. The Sussex name still carries weight in certain circles. Meghan genuinely has charisma and presence when she is operating at her best. And Harry's connection to the military community through Invictus remains real and valuable. But turning those assets into something durable requires a level of honesty with themselves, with their team, with their audience, that has been notably absent from the Sussex operation so far. The Easter video, the jam sent to Patrick Adams, the briefings about Australia presenting a trip that is really about money as though it is primarily about charity, the insistence that WME is still in the picture when the evidence suggests otherwise. All of it points to an operation that is still prioritizing the performance of success over the actual building of it. And that gap between what is being performed and what is real is getting harder to sustain with every passing month. Let me zoom out a little and look at this from a broader perspective, because I think it is easy to get lost in the individual details, the jam, the podcast, the Melbourne conference, and miss what the overall pattern is telling us. What we are watching in real time is the collapse of a brand that was built on a premise that could not sustain itself. The premise was this: Harry and Meghan are special. Not just modestly special, not just interesting because they're royal special, but uniquely, extraordinarily special in a way that justifies enormous commercial value, global attention.
She demands so much when she, all that touching when he's walking, don't go this way, that way. He's absolutely on his tiptoes all the time. But here with this very nice, attractive woman, he's enjoying himself.
And a lifestyle that costs millions of dollars a year to maintain. That specialness in the Sussex formulation derived from two sources. First, their royal identity, the titles, the history, the drama of the departure. Second, their victimhood, the sense that these two remarkable people were being persecuted by an institution too small-minded and too racist to contain them. Both of those sources of specialness are now depleting. The royal identity remains, but it is weakening. Every year that passes without a meaningful reconciliation with the institution, every year of declining relevance in the world of entertainment and politics, makes the Sussex royal identity feel more like a historical footnote and less like a living, dynamic asset. The titles are still there. The drama is fading. And the victimhood narrative, as we have discussed many times, has a shelf life that is visibly expiring.
I haven't seen him smile like that for a long time. He's very happy, he's relaxed, he's enjoying himself. I think one of the problems when he's with Meghan is that he's got to please her and he's worried all the time, is he making the 10 out of 10?
You can only be the victim for so long before the audience's sympathy transforms into something else. Not necessarily hostility, but a kind of fatigue. Sense that the grievance has been processed, the story has been told, and it is time to move on to something new. The problem is that moving on requires having something new to move on to. And the Sussex operation does not yet have that thing. The mommy pivot is an attempt to find it. The corporate speaking circuit is an attempt to fund the search. But neither of these is a real answer to the fundamental question of what Harry and Meghan are for, beyond their own narrative about themselves. Compare the Sussex situation to what someone like Prince Harry could have been had things gone differently. He had, and still has, a genuine connection to the military community that is rare and valuable. The Invictus Games, whatever their commercial limitations, represent something real, a genuine contribution to the lives of wounded veterans and their families. Had Harry chosen to make that his primary focus, to become the global ambassador for veterans issues, to use his platform primarily in service of that cause rather than in service of his own brand, he would have built something durable and genuinely respected. He would have been harder to dismiss, harder to mock, and ultimately more commercially valuable, because the foundation would have been real rather than performed. Instead, Invictus became one item on a long menu of Sussex activities, deployed primarily when the PR calendar suggested a positive story was needed. And the result is that even Harry's most legitimate contribution is now seen through the lens of cynicism, because everything the Sussexes do has been so thoroughly instrumentalized for image management purposes that it is almost impossible to take any of it at face value anymore. That is the real tragedy of where things stand. Not that Harry and Meghan have failed people fail at things. That is not a tragedy. The tragedy is that in the process of failing, they have also corroded the credibility of the genuinely good things they were involved in. Invictus deserves better than to be an occasional talking point in a PR strategy. The mental health advocacy that Harry has pursued, which comes from a real place of personal experience and pain, deserves better than to be deployed selectively when it is useful and abandoned when it is inconvenient, as happened with the social media campaign versus the mommy brand strategy. And Harry himself, the person underneath the Sussex brand, deserves better than what his life has apparently become. A replacement speaker at an undersold corporate conference in Melbourne, and $50,000 for an appearance that his own team probably spends more than that getting him to. Watching his closest friends from before scratch their heads and wonder who the person they used to know has become. That is not what winning looks like. That is what a long, slow, incremental loss looks like. And the saddest part is that it did not have to be this way. The choices that led here were made over a period of years, and at almost every decision point, there was an alternative available. A less combative approach to leaving the institution, a more authentic, less managed public identity, a cleaner separation between the commercial operation and the advocacy work, a genuine focus on one or two things done well, rather than 100 pivots in search of something that sticks. Any of those choices consistently made might have produced a different outcome, but those are not the choices that were made. And now, the Sussex operation is left trying to build a mommy brand without a major agent, running a corporate speaking circuit with undersold conferences, managing PR without a chief, running a foundation without staff, and trying to spin all of it as a position of strength while the evidence accumulates in the other direction. The Easter video, the Melbourne conference, the lost WME relationship, the departed staff, the pivot to motherhood that directly contradicts Harry's most public advocacy position. All of it, taken together, tells a story that no amount of carefully managed content can fully obscure. The Sussex star has fallen. The question now is simply how far it still has to go.